Now, there's a silly rugby league match on now. Now, the loonies think it's on now, but as you know and I know, it was started at 5 o'clock this afternoon. But the people who are into rugby league, of course, there's not a great deal happening up here. And the station has put out the score, you see, and they've all rung up and said they won't watch again. Now, if you don't want to know about the rugby league, don't watch tonight's program. As far as I'm concerned, no. Well, the Liberal Party's revolt over the Coalition's rejection of all 4 referendum questions is gaining strength. One backbencher has openly defied Mr Howard by talking about the issue and threatening to cross the floor, if need be.
Opposition members are banned from speaking publicly against joint party decisions. But yesterday, Foreign Affairs spokesman John Spender ignored that and challenged the Coalition's rejection of 2 aspects of civil rights. Shadow Environment spokesman Senator Chris Kuplick claimed Mr Spender wasn't the only one disappointed with the opposition stance. Opposition leader John Howard, keen to prevent a recurrence of the divisive consumption tax debate, quickly gagged Mr Spender.
He won't be talking out again. He, like every other member of the front bench, will totally support and campaign for the decision.
Despite this, South Australian backbencher Ian Wilson today defied his leader by expressing his opposition to aspects of the Coalition's referendum views.
I have a perfect right, as Mr Howard would acknowledge, to express those views and to vote, if I so decide, in the manner that would confirm those views.
Results from a survey of 1,100 people didn't help Mr Howard either. There was overwhelming support for the 4 proposals. The second highest yes vote was for the civil rights question containing the sections Mr Spender and Mr Wilson are most concerned about. Late this afternoon, debate on the referendum questions began, with the government launching a strong attack on the opposition. Debate will continue for up to 3 days. In Canberra, Fiona Pye, 7 News.
The Prime Minister today called for a rational, is that rational or national debate?
Rational.
It is rational. I would have preferred a national debate. I'd like to have our say. The Prime Minister today called for a debate on the graduate tax issue, but reaffirmed his support for the proposal, although it's not one the whole party endorses.
The RAN committee recommended a tax on graduates to recoup 20% of costs 2 weeks ago. Since then, scenes like this have been repeated around the nation.
And what a great disservice so many of these so-called students do to themselves as the pursuers of knowledge. Their concept of rational debate leaves a lot to be desired.
But the students are the least of Mr Hawke's problems. He's facing mounting opposition from his own party. The left wants industry to pay its share of training the people so vital to business.
The left group are not in support of the proposition as it stands at the moment, yes.
And the influential caucus chairman, Bob Brown, describes the tax as discriminatory.
We abolished university fees and we threw the doors of the universities and the institutes of higher education open to all people. Now, I'm not in favour of turning my back on that, and I hope my colleagues won't do it either.
Another opponent, Victorian Premier John Cain, an election looming within the year. In the face of mounting opposition, Education Minister John Dawkins, a strong supporter of the tax, is now hinting at concessions.
We're prepared to talk about some of the details about where the threshold should be and those sort of issues.
As it stands, Cabinet favours the tax, while caucus is still divided. The final decision will be made at the Federal Labor Conference in a fortnight's time. In Canberra, Jeremy Thompson, 7 News.
Australia is supplying anti-riot equipment to Vanuatu, where there's trouble over a long-running land dispute. The assistance was sought by Vanuatu's Prime Minister, Father Walter Lini.
Vanuatu needed gas masks, tear gas canisters and tear gas launchers, equipment that's standard issue to Australian police forces, and in this case, the emergency squad of the New South Wales Corrective Services Department. Prime Minister Bob Hawke says the request had to be dealt with promptly.
We have made clear to the Vanuatu government that the equipment and material is being provided on the basis that it is for containment of the situation and that any use of it should be in that context.
Recent violence in New Caledonia, which left 19 Kanak separatists dead, along with 3 French soldiers in the assault to release the Kanaks hostages, shows how volatile Australia's region has become. The rioting in Vanuatu's capital of Vila is the result of a growing dispute over land ownership. After a day of rioting, which left 1 person dead, the situation in Vanuatu is now said to be quiet, but tense. A Royal Australian Air Force Hercules arrived in Vanuatu this afternoon with the riot equipment. New Zealand was also sending similar help. Australia's decision to assist is getting bipartisan support.
I don't believe in the circumstances any responsible Australian government could have acted otherwise than the government has done.
In addition, the Australian High Commission in Vanuatu has made extensive inquiries about the welfare of Australians in Vila, and all those contacted are said to be safe. David Jones in Canberra, 7 News.
Excuse me, just doing a bit of decor here. Norm Gallagher says the BLF is on its knees, but will not be broken. The Victorian government will continue to hold the union's assets because of accounting irregularities.
This morning, BLF boss Norm Gallagher was reading the report which recommended the union's assets totalling $1.5 million be frozen until 1991. The state government agreed, and now the union must pay its own operating costs. But Mr Gallagher says a secret fund will help the union survive.
We took it out the bank before they put the freeze on it.
And how much is it?
I don't wish to say.
The union says a new police probe will be useless.
They can have as many inquiries as they like. They won't find anything.
Norm Gallagher says the BLF has been victimised by the Kane government, which he predicts will be defeated at the next election.
I've got no doubt that the Kane government, the next elections, will go down because of its attitude to workers generally.
The custodian's report was critical of the BLF's money management, but Mr Gallagher defended costs such as a $2,000 crayfish bill.
The members at the branch meeting, they would have the best break-up of any union, and we're quite proud of it.
Another drug raid in North Queensland has netted marijuana worth $3 million and $164,000 in cash. They were confiscated on a property at Inner Hot Springs, west of Innisfail.
The 10 members of the Drug Squad Task Force, led by Detective Inspector Bert Butler, moved in on the property at Inner Hot Springs near the logging town of Ravenshoe early this morning. In a cellar under the house, they found 42 bags of marijuana and 2 glass jars containing $164,000 in notes. The marijuana was ready for street sale and was worth an estimated $3 million. Late this afternoon, 2 men appeared in Innisfail Magistrates Court. 54-year-old Mario Krokovic and 34-year-old Paul Barbagello were both remanded in custody to appear again on July the 14th and 15th. Today's raid comes just 3 weeks after marijuana worth an estimated $5 million was seized in another raid on a property west of Ingham. 2 men arrested in connection with that operation have also been held in custody and will appear in Ingham Court on Thursday.
In a strongly worded report, the United States Surgeon General today likened tobacco to heroin or cocaine, but noted that tobacco kills more people.
If cocaine causes 2,000 deaths a year in the US and heroin 4,000, then the health effects of smoking could lead to 320,000 fatalities a year. That's according to the Surgeon General.
This tobacco product contains a drug called nicotine, which is addictive. If I had my way, I would say it is just as addictive as heroin or cocaine.
In presenting his annual report on smoking, C. Everett Koop noted how smokers who tried to quit craved cigarettes. And he used a magnetic resonance image of a laboratory animal's brain to show how a small amount of nicotine instantly changed the metabolism of a wide area of the brain. Koop also argued that nicotine might be mood-altering. The Tobacco Institute reacted promptly to his report, claiming that smoking should not be compared to cocaine or heroin.
It trivializes the very serious drug problem faced by the United States.
But in the wake of Koop's report, a bill was introduced to add a new warning to packages that smoking was addictive. And the Surgeon General didn't want it to end there. He said the possible banning of vending machines and the licensing of those who sell cigarettes should also be considered. Donna Meiklejohn in the United States, 7 News.
Of course, we could do something which has a certain poetry about it, is to set fire to all the people who manufacture tobacco and those advertising agents who work for them. I mean, I'd be all for that. I'll be the first to pull the trigger of the napalm. Most people know they shouldn't smoke. We all know that. But somehow you've got to convince them to stop. However, I sound like a reform smoker. I did, in fact, smoke 1 cigarette once in 1957. It's about that long. I thought, this is stupid. A group of Soviet Refuseniks, allowed out of the Soviet Union, met Prime Minister Hawke in Melbourne tonight to thank him for helping them win their freedom. They're now living in Israel because their emigration papers were approved by Soviet authorities after Mr. Hawke's intervention during his visit to Moscow last year.
Australia's welcome to the Refuseniks. The Prime Minister was at Melbourne's Victorian Arts Centre tonight. To meet the Refuseniks, he helped to leave the Soviet Union. But tonight's events really began in December last year, when Mr. Hawke met Mikhail Gorbachev. Mr. Hawke had a list of Refuseniks with him on that occasion, and one of them was in Melbourne tonight to say thank you.
Of course I would like to thank, but in addition to that, I would like to say that there are still many people that, with us, the story unfortunately has not finished.
Mr. Hawke has long been a friend of Israel, but he's been publicly critical of the Israelis' treatment of Palestinians in the occupied West Bank. Tonight, Mr. Hawke's criticism was muted, but this was a celebration, with the Refuseniks thoroughly enjoying their newfound freedom.
And now, when I am free man, and I know that Mr. Hawke, a free man, is like me, and we are equal.
For the Refuseniks, this was simply a chance to say thank you and to remember the thousands of Soviet Jews who remained behind. David Jones in Melbourne for Newsworld.
Nice to see a happy story for a change, is it not? Well, for those who must know about the result of the State of Origin, whatever that means, match, the results was New South Wales beat Queensland. So there you are. You can go to bed now feeling pleased. We'll have more after this.
Hinch at 7.
Who really killed Harold Price?
I've never thought my mother did it.
A family ruined.
Then Lorraine Price has spent almost 6 years in jail, perhaps for nothing.
Yes, that is true.
Was justice done? That's next on Hinch at 7.
Hercus. While these young Australians are grappling with our name, Herxt.
Fox.
Herxt High Chem is helping to increase food for mankind by protecting plants from pests and disease.
I kissed.
Colouring your world with pigments and dyes that are ecologically safe.
Hitched.
Safeguarding the health of animals to protect the health of people. It's all part of Herxt High Chem.
Herxt.
Sharp have a range of portable computers that let you take your office anywhere.
Thanks, Claire.
Passengers, you may now disembark.
I'm ready.
Go on, go get him, Mr. Parfitt.
Sharp. Simply the best in portable computers.
This is where the best mattresses and ensembles in South Australia are made, at Elite Bedding Company. Yes, at Elite you get top-quality, craftsman-constructed orthopedic mattresses and ensembles at the lowest possible price. Because there's no middleman markup. So if it's orthopedic mattresses or ensembles, brass beds, quilts, sheets or pillows, they're all at Elite's one-stop bedding shop. Elite Bedding Company, 763 Port Road, Woodville.
Lights, the biggest and best range of quality lights in South Australia. Anzac Highway, Ashford, and North East Road, Holden Hill.
Now, for about the cost of 4 days, you can rent any budget car up to a Commodore for 7 days. That's only $2.99 for the week. Because this month, we've stretched the long weekend rate to last the whole week long.
Those funny nights tonight, I don't think I'm in control. Go on, say I'm never in. Go on, be rude. That's it. In fact, I had a phone call from someone tonight who objected to what I do. I said, would you like me to get off, would you, sir? Would you mind, he said. I said, won't you go away? You need me to watch. You need the money. I said, no, I don't. Ooh. I hung up first. So don't ring up and tell me to get off. I'll make the decision when I want to do it. I don't ring you up at work, do I? Or ring up your boss and say I don't like what you're doing? I could start. Cool. Good to clear the air occasionally, make me feel better. Stupid people ring up because they're in a pooey because their wife said no or something. Or yes, and they're tired. Don't have it out on me. Cool. I've been there and I've almost done that. Right. Now, this is something that won't go away. It's not unrelated to our previous item about cigarette smoking. I know you're fed up with it, but at least you should know the facts. Many Australian women suffering breast cancer are at unnecessary and extra risk because of a crisis in radiotherapy services. It means women are being forced to undergo mastectomies when there are alternatives.
Breast cancer is a common cause of death. Only lung cancer kills more. 1 in 15 Australian women will contract the disease at some time in their life. That mortality can be reduced by 30% in women aged 40 to 60 if they're screened by mammography, an X-ray test which, at present, doesn't attract the Medicare benefit. Mammography means cancers are identified before they can be felt by hand. This early diagnosis has changed the treatment of the disease and means many women can avoid a disfiguring operation. Radiotherapy holds the key.
It's interesting to know that in 3 states in America, there is now civil legislation which makes it essential for the surgeon to discuss this as an alternative method of treatment for breast cancer in its early stages. I think we are now witnessing the treatment of cancer without surgery, where the patient has a chance of retaining her breast for the rest of her life, and she has a 90% chance of surviving this disease.
Mastectomy, which is the surgical removal of the breast in breast cancer, is fast becoming an outdated form of therapy. The best treatment is to remove the lump and then apply radiotherapy. But it's an option that many women are finding is just not available.
It is an absolute disaster, and the government needs to get a kick in the backside before they do anything. It is incomprehensible that the government, having been given all this information over such a long period of time, has done absolutely nothing about it. And we're now at a crisis point. The machines are overloaded. We don't have adequate staff numbers, not only of medical staff, but of support staff. And there's just no way in which we can expand our services.
The federal government is about to introduce a pilot mass screening project for breast cancer. The aim, to reduce the death rate by 25% by the year 2005. Radiotherapists say the chaos in their departments makes this target unlikely.
There is no way that the radiotherapy services in this country can absorb the numbers of patients who are likely to come because of the breast screening program.
So all this publicity about this new form of treatment is a joke?
Certainly.
The driver of the pickup truck involved in yesterday's bus crash in Kentucky has been charged with 27 counts of murder, 1 for each person killed. Most of the victims were burned to death when the truck collided head-on with the bus, which was returning from a church outing.
According to witnesses, Larry Mahoney's pickup truck was travelling at a high speed when it hit the school bus head-on. Prosecutors charge he was drunk. His blood alcohol limit was .24, 2.5 times the legal limit in Kentucky. Newsmen were told Mahoney will be charged with 27 counts of murder and face the death penalty.
An arrest warrant has been issued. The officer is at the hospital arresting Mr. Mahoney at this time.
Authorities confirmed today the black pickup truck was travelling in the wrong direction at the time of the collision, rupturing the gas tank and sparking a flash fire which killed 27 passengers. The gas tank was in the front end of the bus. 11 years ago, the federal government required all new school buses carry the gas tank near the rear axle to prevent this kind of disaster. 1,500 Soviet troops are tonight on the second leg of their withdrawal from Afghanistan. They stopped last night at Kabul, where today they were farewelled by Afghanistan President Najibullah. But going home hasn't exactly been a joyride.
Like a creaking, rumbling carnival, the first Soviet army unit to be withdrawn made a couple more stops today. Since they pulled out of Jalalabad yesterday, the battle-weary soldiers have been almost constantly targeted by cameras. The smiles are fading. Whenever they get off their armored vehicles, they run the risk of being maneuvered into contrived poses, or driven into sweat-soaked boredom by a communist politician's speech. This morning, the soldiers stood for more than 3 hours, while Soviet and Afghan leaders made speeches justifying the original Soviet invasion here in 1979, the lack of success on the battlefield since then, and the sudden change in policy which has led to this troop withdrawal. The only truly emotional moment came during the playing of the Soviet national anthem. General Boris Gromov, who heads Soviet troops in Afghanistan, seemed to fight back tears. An attempt to find out exactly how he felt about the pullout.
Are you happy to be going home, sir?
You know, he answered simply, it's time. As the ceremony ended, there was just time for one more photo session, this time with so-called Soviet support staff. Then General Gromov flew back to his command headquarters to run what's left of the war, and the media-weary convoy of 1,500 soldiers, only about 1% of the total Red Army presence here, headed on to their next farewell event.
And so much for all those who died. A workman was killed in Sydney today when his bulldozer fell 11 stories through a building being demolished.
The cave-in happened as a workman was clearing rubble with a dozer on the 11th floor of the old MBF building in George Street. Concrete collapsed and the machine hurtled to the ground with the driver in the cabin. He was crushed in an avalanche of concrete and twisted steel. The tragedy was witnessed by a clerk in a neighbouring office tower.
And, he's on the top of the rubble, sitting on top. Next minute, the rubble's fallen through. He's gone with it. A great hole and dust has just flown up. My heart went to my mouth.
But what the witness didn't see was another man working on a similar dozer on the floor below. He saw the tumbling rubble and jumped for his life. His machine crashed to the ground, miraculously leaving him uninjured. It took rescue services more than 2 hours to free the body of the trapped workman. It was 15 minutes before they could even turn off the dozer's engine.
We've had to dig with our hands virtually at times to get the deceased out.
It was the third building accident in Sydney in one day. Felicity Moffat, 7 News.
Conservationists today rejected the findings of a report commissioned by the federal government which concludes that the Lemon-Thyme and southern forests of Tasmania are not worthy of a World Heritage listing. They have vowed to mount a Franklin River-style campaign if the report is ratified.
It's a big area of Tasmania, 284,000 hectares, mostly covered in thick eucalypt forest.
Trees that are taller than the Great Flag Mast atop the new Parliament House in Canberra, a wealth of wildlife, Aboriginal heritage going back 24,000 years.
The inquiry found that only about 10% of the area is worth World Heritage listing. The report was tabled today, but it will be some weeks before the government decides if its recommendations should be accepted. If the forests are not protected, then the loggers move in.
We would be left no option but to do all we peaceably can to protect this area. Future generations can't fight for it. We have to stand by it. And we will stand by it, even if it means tree by tree, lake by lake, river by river, wildlife habitat by wildlife habitat.
In other reactions today, the National Trust also rejected the findings, but the National Association of Forest Industries welcomed the report as a stimulus for jobs and economic development. In Canberra, Jeremy Thompson for Newsworld.
Gee, a Third World War would stop a lot of arguing, wouldn't it? Yes. Now, this is our little story where the moral here, if there is a moral, I like to throw this in occasionally so you can ring up and complain. The moral here is caveat everyone. A former director of the Western Australian Teachers Credit Society admitted for the first time today that he had no idea what was going on until the financial bubble burst. Teachers Union President Jeff Bateman was giving evidence at an inquiry into the collapse of the society, which left taxpayers with a bill of $60 million.
As president of the State Teachers Union, Jeff Bateman was made a director of Teachers Credit Society to keep an eye on his members' money. But today he admitted he never really understood what he heard at board meetings, and that he never queried the multi-million-dollar loans made without proper security, only flicked through accounts when they were shown to him, didn't notice when overdrafts were $10 million over their limit, and had no idea how much the society had in reserve. He also ignored warnings from auditors about the loans and said he believed everything General Manager Alex Clark told him because Alex Clark had total authority over the loans. Loans like $28 million to Laurie Potter, $26 million to Keith Turner, and $15 million to Robert Martin. Loans which were 30 to 50 times more than the society had in capital. and loans which were made without proper security, without guidelines or approved documentation.
And we thought all the big businessmen in Western Australia knew what they were doing. $28 million, you probably didn't understand the phone. I like Jeff. I've worked with people like Jeff over the years. It gives me hope. Whenever I feel I'm a dill, I think of people like Jeff and think, oh, it takes all kinds. We'll have more after this.
Bicentennial Minutes is proudly brought to you by today's AMP. Australians sharing Australia.
This simple wooden chair is hardly a throne, but I think it would be presumptuous of me to sit in it. It's the captain's chair from the 2nd HMAS Australia, and it's seen the rears of admirals and the backsides of an illustrious line of Navy brass. But its last occupant was the most tragic. In 1944, in the Battle of Leyte, Australia was bombarded by Japanese kamikaze planes. One of them struck behind the bridge, and Captain DeShano, sitting in this chair, was killed by shrapnel. Commodore Collins, who commanded the Australian squadron, was standing right alongside him and was severely wounded but survived. HMAS Australia also had many scars to show when she limped back into port after her encounter with the terrifying suicide attacks. HMAS Australia has now long since gone to the scrapyards, and this chair is one of the few fragile remnants of her time to remember.
The AMP report is out now, and it's free. For almost 2 million AMP policyholders, it makes essential reading. It's straightforward. It charts AMP's progress as Australia's largest life office. It shows the depth and spread of AMP's investments. This report reveals why AMP can be your sure friend in an uncertain world. The AMP report is available now, free, from any AMP agent or office. Today's AMP, Australians sharing Australia.
Now there's a brand new way to buy everything electrical. An exciting new way that gives you more convenience, more variety, and more of the right advice. Only at Kenmax's incredible new super warehouses can you see it all on display and ready to go at super value prices. It's all part of the Kenmax Advantage, a package so rock solid that we actually guarantee a 10-way better deal in writing. Kenmax, Hilton, Morford Vale, Modbury, and now at Prospect and Edwardstown.
Oh, here's one. Fruit figures wanted. You're late. Come on, you! Speed it up a bit. Go on, son.
Hi, it's me.
Gee, I'm glad you called.
Get in. Whose is it? Yours. It's your Astra. With a bigger 1.8 Holden engine, fuel injection, great to drive.
Reclining seat, tons of room, 4-speaker FM, the works. You already adjusted the steering column and seat.
It's got everything. The getaway car. Got to get away? Got to get an Astra.
Astra, the getaway car. From Holden.
The Lifestyle Suite by Innovator. Rearrangeable because of the detachable armrests. Just slot them in and make the suite do what you want it to. Armchairs, settees, a corner suite, even a bed. All covers, including the base cover, come off for cleaning, and for 9 years now we've supplied spare covers. Choose the look you want, summer or winter, traditional or modern. Simply brilliant, just like this coffee table which converts to a dining table. Sykes Innovator, 334 Port Road, Hindmarsh.
President Reagan and Mr. Gorbachev will meet in Moscow at the end of this month. Faith and trust might be at a premium, but the treaty the world is hoping for would reduce strategic long-range nuclear arms, with both sides able to verify the other's weapons with on-ground inspections. Well, each now has the experience of verification of intermediate-range nuclear weapons. But what a strange world we live in, and the strange things we do to the word trust. A British expert, Dr. Jeremy Leggett, who's the director of the Verification Technology Information Centre in London and is temporarily in Australia at the ANU, says we're living in possibly the best of times, which might easily become the worst again. Well, Doctor, read this supposed treaty. Can we trust either side?
Well, who would have thought that 2 years ago the Soviets would have signed up to hundreds of American inspectors trooping around the heartland of Mother Russia in gumboots in a top-secret Soviet missile factory? But that's what they've done. That's written into the treaty that was signed in December that gets rid of the intermediate-range forces. And with provisions like that, even right-wingers in the Reagan administration are happy that we can verify that treaty with confidence.
Well, does this agreement assume that both sides know what the other is doing?
Yes, that was all worked out ahead of time because of the spy satellites and the like who have been observing each other's military for many, many years. And one of the fortunate things about this treaty is that the declared number of missiles that they eventually put on the table for the treaty has matched fairly well with the spy satellite data.
That's curious, isn't it? Because if I were wanting to cheat, of course, I would merely get cleverer, wouldn't I? Sign the agreement which shuts everyone up and do things underground. Now, how can we trust their intentions, though? I mean, up to now, you say that the verification is okay.
Well, part of the process of verification involves actually demonstrating that you do have good intentions. There's plenty of opportunities to do that, for example. The Americans can phone up the Soviets and say, hey, fellas, we're worried about your long-range SS-25 missiles that look kind of like the SS-20s that have been banned. What we want you to do at point A, which is an active deployment site, wherever, is wheel them out into the open, take the roofs off the garages, leave them there for 6 to 9 hours. And the Soviets have got to do that, and vice versa, of course. There are similar confidence-building measures on the other side.
What a funny game that is, isn't it?
It's part of building trust, and the reason why I think we're living in such exciting times is because this is happening in a number of areas in the Soviet Union. For example, there's a controversial radar in the middle of Siberia, which many Americans have said is a violation of a treaty. Now, this has been imaged, pictured, actually by satellites that are civilian satellites, a French one, and in consequence, the Soviets have invited American congressmen to inspect that controversial radar. It's a part of a process of opening up, which augurs tremendously well for future arms control agreements.
All right, now here's a good test of how much each side trusts the other. Is the art of verification going to improve when this treaty comes in?
This is where the problem is, because evidently not enough forethought has been going into verification. The Americans in particular have only been spending 0.02% of their $300 billion annual defense budget on means of verifying nuclear testing and on-site inspections for missile reduction treaties. Pitifully inadequate.
So what have the Russians been spending in proportion?
We don't know, and this again is a problem the Russians are...
Is the declaration of your verification techniques or facilities part of this agreement?
Yes, they've agreed in principle that they can verify a treaty which is much more difficult to verify, because with the intermediate range ones, they're verifying 0, so that any one clandestine missile is a clear violation. On the 50% cuts, there's still 50% of an awful lot left.
Now, Doctor, this is all very academic. The point is that both sides are keeping these amazing machines, which each one alone is equivalent to the Second World War's bombs. Do you feel in a way, in the quietness of your home in London, that sometimes this is just an academic, it's just an exercise?
We can't afford to let it be an academic exercise. We've lived with the bomb now for more than 40 years. We started off with great fat bombs that were in bombers that took more than 10 hours to get to their targets and could be recalled. We're now living in an age where bombs are being made, being built, which are radar invisible, which can be launched out of the sea in an ambush attack with a warning time of minutes. We can't go much further down that technological road without it blowing up in our faces. We have to seize the advantages for arms control and disarmament, which are on the table now, and to do that we've got to be serious about verification.
Yes, it still does seem that, I think of an analogy this afternoon, it's a bit like deciding in the middle of a volcano which choice of footwear you're going to wear. I mean, it seems to be fairly academic with, 10,000 warheads. Is this a step towards more disarmament or not? Or is it just living with what we've got?
No, I like to think that this is actually a watershed time. If they sign this strategic arms treaty, we've gone over the edge of the watershed. They're actually really reducing on a large scale. And once that process starts happening, hopefully it'll generate as much of a momentum as hitherto the nuclear arms race has maintained.
And of course, there is one small coda to this, of course, is that we're talking about the Russians and the Americans. It would be, of course, high time for some other country in the middle to start playing city buggers.
Yes, I can't pretend that I have anything to be proud of in my own country's actions. We should be preparing for putting our missiles on the table once this 50% cuts treaty has been signed. We're not doing so. Our verification effort is abysmal, and that's something that countries who've signed the non-proliferation treaty, like Australia, whereby when we signed it we promised to get rid of our nuclear weapons, should be making demonstrations over.
Well, you've left me with some optimism. I wasn't expecting that at the start. I thank you for coming, and I hope you enjoy Australia for the short time you're here. You should come over here and see the country when you're not worried about wars. Dr. Jeremy Leggett, who has the title of the Director of Verification Technology Information Centre in London, telling us what hopefully will happen with Mr. Gorbachev and Mr. Reagan. This is Newsworld. We'll be back after this.
The switch is on. Every day, more and more people are switching to 7 Nightly News. Why? Experience. Graham Goodings, Jeremy Cordeau, Mike Smithson, Max Stevens, John Casey, and Wilsey with the weather, plus Adelaide's most experienced news-gathering team. Experience the team that's created Adelaide's best one-hour news service. Experience the best local news. Turn to 7 Nightly News at 6, because experience is what it's all about.
This is where the best mattresses and ensembles in South Australia are made, at Elite Bedding Company. Yes, at Elite you get top-quality, craftsman-constructed orthopedic mattresses and ensembles at the lowest possible price, because there's no middleman markup. So if it's orthopedic mattresses or ensembles, brass beds, quilts, sheets or pillows, they're all at Elite's one-stop bedding shop. Elite Bedding Company, 763 Port Road, Woodville.
Prime Computer may be big, but we're not about to get fat. We keep developing more powerful machines that expand with your organization. We understand different languages, so we talk to other computers. We have the flexibility to handle different operating systems, like Unix, and we run more software solutions than anyone else. Prime also have the largest research and development of any computer company in Australia. But that's another story.
Here comes Holden's Farina with optional automatic transmission. It's ready to go anywhere. Holden Farina. It gives you even more run for your money. SGIC Business Insurance, for fire and a whole lot more.
Don't forget Flagstaff Electrical the next time you need spare parts or service. The one-stop electrical shop with 3 convenient locations. Flagstaff Electrical Bedford Park, Flagstaff Electrical Windsor Gardens, Flagstaff Electrical Albert Park.
This Friday, the Sydney Opera House is holding its 3rd National Treasures concert. Will I be there, I hear you ask? Well, this time they're featuring Australia's foremost jazz musicians. The lineup includes trumpeter and trombonist James Morrison, who, with guitarist Steve Bryan, visited Newsworld to play There'll Never Be Another You.
Saturday on 7, thrill to a classic by the undisputed master of suspense, Alfred Hitchcock. Cary Grant is being chased across the nation by every spy in the world.
And I don't intend to disappoint them all by getting myself slightly killed.
They try to scare him out of his wits, catch him off his guard, and sweep him off his feet.
How do I know you aren't a murderer?
Cary Grant, Eva Marie Saint, and James Mason in the Alfred Hitchcock thriller, North by Northwest, Saturday on 7.
Need spare parts for your stove, dishwasher, washing machine, tumble dryer, hot water service, bench appliances, or in-home service? Call into Flagstaff Electrical at one of their 3 convenient locations. South, opposite Flinders Medical Centre, Bedford Park. North, next to Windsor Hotel, Windsor Gardens. West, corner of Old and Newport Roads, Albert Park. Remember, Flagstaff Electrical, the spare parts specialists.
Today, there is one car that proudly sits among this select group of prestige imports. A car with the same power and performance, the same luxury features, the same space. A better warranty. But a car that for sheer leasing value stands alone. The superb 3-litre fuel-injected Mazda 929 V6i Luxury Saloon. You'll find the Mazda 929 with an exceptional prestige purchase plan at your Mazda dealer right now.
Coming up, the main story tonight, the president of the... The president of the...
Go to the weather! Enjoy the taste from the very first of the world's finest coffee blend.
What else is new?
Well, I got 3 sets to love off Clive. Nescafe Blend 43 lifts the lid on taste.
When you want to make a good impression this winter, pull on a $39.99 knit from John Martin's in a huge range of colours, patterns and textures in winter's latest styles, all at a price that's great for your budget, just $39.99 each. So when you want to make a good impression this winter, pull on a $39.99 knit from John Martin's, where good impressions always last.
In the business equipment wasteland, there's a new leading light. Sharp, with smaller desktop copiers that save precious space. Sharp, simply the best in the business.
This year for the Wowzers and everybody else, Ciccolina has made Carnal. Frisky Wordsworth was there.
Sun, sand, and a smorgasbord of stars and starlets. A recipe sure to lure the world's paparazzi and a teeming throng of glitter groupies. As has been the case since 1946, the beautiful people parade for the poor folk past pushy photographers and into the next celebrity bash. Robert Redford made quite an impression with his new girlfriend, but even an ageless heartthrob of his considerable stature failed to grab the crowd's attention like... the Honourable Ciccolina MP, one of Italy's newest parliamentarians, part-time cabaret artist and actress. Wearing a little over-the-top, off-the-shoulder number, Kitchialina played to one of the most enthusiastic audiences ever seen in the 42-year history of the Cannes Festival. A brilliant piece of marketing for the kind of movie Miss Kitchialina makes. Regrettably, for the popular performer and her agent, it will do little for her box office returns. She's not made a film yet, suitable for general release. Reporting from London, Chris Wordsworth, 7 News.
Isn't he a naughty little Wordsworth? Well, now to football, or rugby league. State of the origin, Queensland versus New South Wales. The mighty Maroons beat the Bubby Blues 26-18. Here are some moving pictures.
Out to Sterling, the little master. Here's a little step now as they come inside from Pearce onto Lyons. Lyons pretty creative tonight. He pops it back for Cleal. Cleal with a bit of distance to move now. Cleal still going on. Cleal. Oh, great run from Crusher. Crusher powering down the field. Comes back to Johnson now. They clear it out along the line. They're pretty deep. And there's a big run here. Oh, O'Connor's in. They rang a Langer. Langer with a chance. Langer over. Oh, Sterling missed him. And Langer was over. Kilroy fires one out to Langer. Langer with a little chase too. Can he get the bounce? He toes it again. And toes it again. It's doing fire. He's got Belcher. Belcher inside. Belcher's down in the clear. And he's up to the post again. Back inside. Chance is time for Magor. He's got the support. Terry Lowe heading for the line. Oh no. It just gets put down by Langer. Flicks the ball back. Gets it to Eddie House and tries.
Well, meanwhile, Sydney's Biennale, or biennial, or whatever they call it, is on again. So too, naturally, is the usual controversy.
Today, a preview of the Biennale, an exhibition of Australian and other art from 15 countries. Some of it's good. Some even horrifies the experts.
I found a few things that I think are really, really, really seriously awful.
Well, that's the mainstream part of the exhibition, but over here at Pier 2 and 3, there's something a little more bizarre. Austrian artist Hermann Nisch calls this painting action. Hermann Nisch expresses himself with animal blood.
I want to show what is going on in the world, and I think art has to show trueness and has to show what is going on. There's so much violence in our world. He's so quiet and nice and mild, and you think, well, what's going on up there?
The Biennale begins tomorrow and runs until early July. Jim Marr, 7 News.
The question, of course, that crosses your mind is why? Well, people with more than 2 toilets in the southern New South Wales town of Young will have to pay a local government tax on the extra WCs.
For some toilet owners in Young, the almost unthinkable has happened. The local council has slapped a $33 a year tax on people who own more than 2 loos. This is serious business, and there's already a strong movement against it by Young's multi-loo owning moteliers.
Nobody can believe that, they've hit us with this. It's just outrageous.
Owners of more than 2 units, and therefore at least 3 toilets, will also now start feeling the pressure. It's not difficult to work out why a council would want to tax something like extra toilets. You've got the users by the very laws of nature. So we sought to lift the lid on council's thinking behind the new tax.
We've got to collect X amount of funds to meet our overhead commitments on it. Now, whether you do it by the amount of toilets you have or you increase the connected fee, spread the load over everyone.
There's also your regular householder like Paul Walker, who can't resist the urge to have a 3rd loo.
If they're there to be used and you are using them, you've got to use them.
Young, a town of almost 8,000 people, is already suffering the strains of drought. Now even their extra dunny is in doubt. John Lloyd Green, 7 News.
I suppose the only way to change things is if the Shire clerk becomes incontinent, and then, funnily, he has a vested interest in all this. I gather in Tamworth that's not news. It's been like that for quite a while. Well, I suppose you have to grin and bear it. More after this.
If you're
your accountant only comes into the picture at tax time, it's easy to miss something important in the rush. And you could miss out badly. Which is why the Australian Society of Accountants urges you to employ those full-time professionals whose very qualifications depend on staying up to date right through the year. CPA, Certified Practicing Accountant.
One step at a time, that's the way I planned it all would be. And now I can see all my dreams are here in front of me. Now I found what I was searching for. Parker,
New releases at introductory prices until the end of May.
The Adelaide Aquatic Centre is more than just a pool. You can learn to swim with professional help. You can swim for fitness or for fun. You can join a club, play water sports, dive or do some training. There's aerobics for the young or not so young, a professional, fully supervised gymnasium with regular fitness assessments. They also offer a variety of health and fitness programs from structured corporate to individual. And there's ample room just to relax. The Adelaide Aquatic Centre, just out of the city in the North Adelaide Parklands.
I said hi.
And I said hi.
I said hi.
And I said hi.
We all said hi to Hyundai. This car is solid. It's Italian designed. It's roomy. It's zoomy. Goes a long way on a liter. Solid built. Tons of room. Economic. Lots of zoom. Good reasons why you should say hi to Hyundai.
I'm cooking something special tonight.
Guess who's coming to dinner?
Scrap. Chicken chasseur. And I'm using Maggi Cook in the Pot. For authentic chicken chasseur, Maggi's special blend of herbs and spices produces real French flavour.
This French stuff's pretty neat, sis.
Maggi Cook in the Pot, now in 8 varieties. Maggi makes a great casserole easy.
Here's some sharp thinking for business executives on the move.
Miss Tenny, may I please have the new contract for the meeting? Thank you. Paul, can you give me the updated financial analysis? And Claire, put me through the surveyors, will you?
Sharp have a comprehensive range of portable computers that let you take your office anywhere.
Thanks, Claire.
Passengers, you may now disembark.
I'm ready.
Go get him, Mr. Buffett.
The comprehensive range of Sharp portable computers. Sharp, simply the best in portable computers.
Look, read those Gladstone bags. I probably didn't give you the whole picture if you missed it. I brought an old Gladstone bag in the other day. It's just that a friend of mine is trying to get one in leather and asked me, did I know where? I actually don't need any more myself. I have 2. So, but thank you for the person who wrote and told me where I could go to get them. Thank you. I like them, Gladstone bags. Nice. Now the bookies are sort of a dying lot. Perhaps I should get one of their white ones with Robbo written on it. Right, the temperatures for today, being whatever day is it Tuesday? Tuesday today. I must apologise for the writing on the screen. Townsville 28 today, Cairns 29. I mean that most sincerely. Brisbane 23, Taree 20, Tamworth 16 degrees today, Dubbo 18, Orange a maximum of 13. Where were we? Griffith 18, Wagga Wagga 15, Albury 16, Sydney 19, 17 for Melbourne, Adelaide 18, Alice Springs 22, and Perth 20. Rainfall today, 1 for Brisbane, Griffith 14, Tamworth 15, Wagga 30, Dubbo 0.4, 19 millimetres for Albury. There's really no hurry, actually, to go to the synoptic chart at this stage. I think we apparently have a few minutes up our sleeve. Orange 2 millimetres and Sydney 0.4. That's between 9 and 3 today. Now, moving to the synoptic chart, you'll see a number of things here. There's a low pressure system here and another one here, sort of more or less the same sort of one. But what's happened here is there's a lot of cloud which you cannot see here from this low pressure system right over Queensland down here. There's more cloud up here and there's a bit in the southwest. Anyway, firstly for Queensland, the cloud will be clearing. For New South Wales, there'll be rain which is moving to the northeast there's an upper air disturbance over New South Wales. South Australia, more of the same for the moment. For Western Australia, this front is in fact probably in the exact position it's in. They've had rain already in Perth, and you're going to have more rain from this front, and of course winds from the south. So a cooler change, although more rain. So the forecast for tomorrow: fine and 29, Cairns showers clearing and 30, Brisbane rain clearing and 25, Taree storms and 23. Tamworth storms and 18, Dubbo storms and 16. Orange isolates storms. See, orange isolates storms. Make sure you're watching. Griffith storms and 14, Wagga storms and 14, Albury storms. These are all from this upper air disturbance, 14. Sydney will have showers, 21, on the subject of disturbances. Melbourne showers and 16. Wonder what she really wants. Adelaide a few showers and 18. Alice Springs fine and 22, and Perth cloudy and 20 degrees. There's not much one can really say, is there, actually? Oh, you men are all the same. Why do you just go on and on about it? What's wrong with you? That's the program for tonight. I'll be back, if I have the strength, tomorrow night. Good night.
October 82. A family is taken hostage by armed bank robbers. January 85. A businessman is gunned down in a parking lot.
My son was murdered.
December 86. A body is found in the boot of a hire car.
To tell these stories, we have recreated the actual events in precise detail.
Now, Raymond Burr brings you the amazing new TV series that's rocketed to the top of the ratings in America. Unsolved Mysteries.
For each story, there is someone somewhere who knows the truth.
Premieres Thursday night on 7.
Whatever sport you play, the fashion you need to fit the action is right here at Rowan Jarman. Other shops have sportswear sections, but Rowan Jarman devote a complete floor to an enormous range of leisure wear and basic sports clothing. The display of their stock just has to be seen. So come on in and talk to sporting people who are genuinely interested in satisfying your personal requirements. Believe me, Rowan Jarman have all the sports and casual fashion under their roof that you will ever need under yours. Come into 99 Grenfell Street to the sports store you should get to know.
It's the Mighty May sale at Bedroom Mazurka, and just in time for winter, we've slashed a huge 30% off continental quilts. Single polyester just $17.95. Luxury white goose down from $99. And don't be caught cold this winter. Snuggle into slumber wool under blankets $69. Double $99 and queen $119. That's up to $100 off. Warm acrylic rugs out at $35. Flannelette sheet sets just $31.95. Mighty May sale on now. Bedroom Mazurka, all 7 stores.
More copying paper.
Choosing your copying paper is a reflex action, because you can rely on reflex.
Rodney Dangerfield. He's 54.
You're a melon.
He's filthy rich.
Pick a card.
He's been everywhere. He's done everything. So now he's going back to school to do it again.
That is Mr. Thornton Mellon, the world's oldest living freshman.
Rodney Dangerfield.
Kids, they always do things the hard way.
Is riotous in the television premiere of Back to School, Sunday on 7.
Seven's on the move.